Hello and welcome to Uniper's Market Insights. Glad that you tuned in again. My name is Florian Oberländer and on my side, as usual, our Chief Analyst, Gregor Pett. Hi, Gregor.
Hi, Florian. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm glad that you're here to answer all of my questions again. We will talk about hydrogen. Your attendance at the Gastech in Houston will be one of the topics. But let's start with commodities. Before we do that in detail, I think it's worth mentioning that a lot of things happened. Last time we met, that was before the summer break, and conflict in the Middle East is still going on. We had a little shock on the stock exchange due to the appreciation of the yen. And then we had the attempt on Donald Trump's life, and we have a new Democratic candidate in Kamala Harris in the US. And, the Ukraine stepped onto Russian territory. So just to name a few headlines that happened in that time. What has happened on the energy markets? Did they react to any of that?
Yeah, you rightly said the geopolitical situation is tense and has become, I would say, worse than previously. Compared to that, the energy markets were relatively calm. So we couldn't see, prices were moving, but in particular on the oil side, we couldn't see strong movements or a run even in one direction. This was not there. We have enough supplies as we speak. So even talk about supply disruptions like from Libya, that went okay after all, so I would say.
Okay, so that's for the oil market. I also quickly looked at the coal market. Seems to be more or less unchanged as well.
Absolutely, a similar picture. So a lot of sideways movements. So with the coal market in particular, China is the most important market in the meantime, where coal plays a major role in the energy mix, but also on balance less than you could expect when you see at the geopolitical developments.
Okay. How did the power market react during that time?
With the power markets, so Europe, I would concentrate on is we have a clear distinction between short-term markets and longer-term markets, so where you have the outlook for a couple of years ahead. So with regard to the short-term markets, these are increasingly driven by weather patterns. So we have increasing infeed of renewables into the power system. In the case of Germany, the order of magnitude is half of the production is renewable on an annual basis. But this means we see huge fluctuations according to solar infeed, so when the sun shines or doesn't. Similar on the wind side. So by nature, we have a lot of fluctuation of these prices. This drives the short-term price. This is where also needs for flexibility come in, like storage, pump storage, or batteries. For the mid to longer-term outlook, the market also needs to consider which additional energy sources are needed in case there is not enough renewable production. And we see still gas being the right energy than providing these additional kilowatt hours. So the gas price actually plays a role when it comes to the power price in Europe a couple of years out. So that there is a clear influence there. In addition, luckily, we have some factors that don't play such a role this year, like, for example, technical problems in French nuclear power plants. We have seen much less of these concerns, and as a consequence, then also less impact on the power price in Europe.
Yeah, you mentioned the impact also long-term on gas, being one of the biggest influences there. There we've seen quite some volatile movements as well, mainly due to Ukraine situation. Looking at the pure fundamentals though, looking at storage and LNG supply, there seems to be these. What is the main issue for the gas market right now?
Overall, we have a decent supply situation. Storage is almost full. So in Europe, we have well above 90% storage filling level. It's to be expected that in the course of October, we will get to 100%. So that is what I would expect, which gives us a very good position for the start of the winter. So that's one thing. We have stable supplies from sources like Norway. They've seen some maintenance now, but this is normal. Sometimes these take a bit longer than expected, but overall it's normal that these maintenance periods occur. And the market usually considers that and prices that in. That's one thing. We have LNG coming in. There's even, some German terminals very well booked, but also on a European level, we have some capacity. So we could take one or the other cargo in addition if we need more gas.
Yeah. So that's good news. Yeah, I went to Wilhelmshaven, one of our facilities. They told me it was booked out by US cargo so far. So that's always a good sign, definitely. The risk that was kind of priced in, though, mainly came from the Ukraine entering Russian territory.
Yes.
Why is this such a price driver?
We still see Russian volumes flowing through Ukraine to Europe. We are talking about between 30 and 40 million cubic meters every day that flow mainly through one station currently. And that was a route that before the crisis started technically was capable of up to 200 million cubic meters a day. Where this remaining station is, that's the station Sucha, and that's in close to Kursk, where the currently Ukrainian incursion on Russian territory takes place. The station was seized by Ukrainian forces and as far as we know, also was damaged in the process. The gas is still flowing. But of course, things can happen. In any case, this transit contract, which is the basis for the deliveries, the transit contract through Ukraine, was to stop at the end of this year. So in any case, we had to face the situation that these volumes wouldn't flow and we lose basically them for half of the winter. We may now have a risk that that happens earlier, and that's clearly something the market needs to consider. And this may be behind the price shift we've seen, and you alluded to, between June and now August, where we saw price movers in general of around 10%, figuring in these effects.
Yeah. I mean, definitely something that we will observe and
definitely
analyze
yes,
here,
yeah.
and then, of course, update our audience down the line as well. One factor that was in use last year as well was the Ukrainian gas storage, which the EU used quite a bit. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Is that also a big factor down the line?
Yeah, these storage sites offer additional flexibility. You can inject in additional gas, which you then can withdraw also from Europe when you need it during winter. The Ukrainian gas infrastructure, or in general the energy infrastructure, suffers heavily from Russian air raids. And as a consequence of that, it's not secure then to use the storage site, these sites, despite they are in the west of the Ukraine. But it's not safe then, to a reason why they are used less this year.
Okay. So on the positive side, the fundamental side looks good, but a little bit of risk is there.
Absolutely,
always out there. Okay. To another topic, hydrogen. Here in this format, we always discuss, what will be the follow-up on coal or gas, as a bridge technology, and hydrogen is always one of the things that we mention here. Before I come to my question, and the question builds up on some press releases that Uniper did over the summer. For example, Hamburg, where we invested 250 million on a pump storage to kind of balance fluctuation in renewables. In Scholven 1, the power plant, we will convert from coal to gas and hydrogen. We have a cooperation with Liquid Wind on e-fuels. We produce bio-LNG at the Gate terminal in Rotterdam, and quite recently the opening of Krummhörn storage for green hydrogen. So just to show that, of course, we are doing our homework, and other companies do the same, as well as governments. They're trying to do their homework. However, looking at the targets, and let's take the EU targets for 2030, we have 10 million tons of green hydrogen from their own production and 10 million tons as imports. It still seems to me that we are a little bit behind there. Can you maybe shine some light on what's the actual status here?
Yeah, it's indeed it's not so easy to implement all these measures, to build all the necessary infrastructure. It's partly a financing issue because governments also have other priorities and need to really carefully consider what they invest in, how they use the money. So this is certainly a factor. When you produce e-fuels or hydrogen by a facility like an electrolyzer, you need renewable energy, and of course you also need that for other purposes. So there's clearly a competition, so that other applications need renewable energy. And then, last but not least, of course, the willingness to pay of the customer. Can the customer afford hydrogen at the price that is coming out of these facilities? All of that put together doesn't make it easy to very quickly develop the infrastructure in an economic way. We simply have to face this situation.
Of course, in order to produce green hydrogen, you need renewables. And to hit the targets in Germany, we would need to build around 200 to 400 wind turbines a year. So that's quite a significant number. But
Absolutely.
I think it's important to keep in mind that we have to do that step also before we do the green hydrogen.
Yeah.
What needs to happen to speed up everything or to make it realistic?
Yeah, all of these factors need to happen. Like, of course, it needs some government funding initially then to get these things started.
Okay.
At the same time, you mentioned Krummhörn. It's important that companies establish the technology that is needed, how we can make it work, and also how we can optimize it from a cost perspective, production cost perspective. And we need to start doing that, and this is what we do in this case.
Maybe to explain as well, if you have a normal gas storage, you cannot just convert it into hydrogen, right?
That's not that easy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and then,
it's a different molecule. It's much smaller.
Okay, but you know, it's really important that we have enough storage when we talk about 10 million tons of imports, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And this is where flexibility needs to come in.
Okay, understood. Talking about the imports, of course, there comes some social responsibility with it as well. How do you see that factoring in our decisions?
Yeah, import very often comes from geographies where it's warmer, you have more sun, and you can produce renewable energy at a basically with more efficiency. So, and we of course have this responsibility that we work together with those countries, figure out what they need also for their own purposes and what can they export. So the government, for example, has initiated cooperations for example, in Africa to do exactly that, which is of course something that is very helpful then to do that, to establish these kinds of partnerships.
And I think what's also important there is that we have to diversify there as well, not to, Russia was one example, that as soon as flows ended, that we had to look somewhere else for more expensive gas. So I think that's an issue as well, right?
Exactly. We need to establish security of supply, obviously. That is indeed an issue.
Yeah. So 2030 targets, very ambitious.
It's challenging. Yeah. So that's, but we need to get going.
And you will do that, you will fly over to the Gastech in Houston in, I think, 2 weeks, where the whole business will get together to discuss topics like hydrogen. Yeah,
it's always good to get first-hand information that apart from written communication, that you basically see people and get their take on what happens. That's always very useful. Yeah,
and I saw for the first time also AI will be part of it. Definitely something we will then talk about in the next episode when you are back. But thank you until then and safe travels.
Okay, thank you very much and see you then.
All right. And thank you for watching or listening. Hope you tune in next time again. Until then, bye-bye.